I was born in Peru. I live in the US. My company is in the US. I scale it from 2 people to over 100 people. And I want to explain you what it's kind of like the risks of being an entrepreneur and why most of the startups fail. So if you have any questions, feel free to interrupt me at any moment. Whatever is your question, just say it. I don't have any issue with any question in general. So my background is engineering. I'm a computer science engineer that ended up doing sales, ended up doing product management, everything that was needed in order to scale the business. So that's kind of like how I started. And let's start with the first one. If you want to build a great company, it's people. I mean, every company, product or service, you need people. If you don't know how to manage people, it's going to be really complex. And when I say manage, I don't say management. I say more like in the leadership way, because you need to inspire. Put it this way, and a startup is an entity that is probably 3 or 4 people that is crazy, that thinks they can change the world, or they want to sell a product all over the world. So, and next to that, you have a corporation that has 1,000 employees, $3 billion in budget. How the startup can beat them? How do you think it's possible?
Innovation.
What's innovation?
Some new product or idea on the market.
Innovation is failure. It's failure. It's as simple as that. The only way to be innovative is failure. So the first thing that you will see in entrepreneurship and in startups is failure. For example, in my case, my first project was in the US, but my second project was with Spain. And we said, great, we have a great company in the US, now we have a company in Spain, and suddenly the project for Spain, we did bad job in a way that we didn't build a good team, so we had to return the money. So we were about to go bankruptcy because we were unable to fulfill the second project. Many people will say, okay, that's enough, I'm low, I lose money, I don't want to do it anymore. We continue. And as we continue, we face failure after failure after failure. So that doesn't mean that you're losing money all the time. It's just failure could be that you hire somebody the wrong way, you put somebody who was good for sales in an engineering position, or vice versa, whatever. But we will see that failure is the common statement if you want to put it in a startup world. So if you're thinking that being an entrepreneur is like everything will be perfect, that's bad. For example, right now, coronavirus. I don't run my company anymore, but I was not expecting to have an issue with a pandemic in the world, and suddenly we have corona everywhere, and the clients are like, we're putting on hold our budgets because we don't know what will happen with the world. So it's like, okay, I didn't figure out that. This year was amazing, and now we will have to put on hold everything for 6 months. So how you deal with that? How you plan that? Is there a planning?
No.
I mean, not even the governments can plan for that. Look Italy, look at Spain, look the US. Nobody can plan for that. That's usually what happens. Or as I see other entrepreneurs, like they build a product and then suddenly Google shows up, and they do the same thing. Can you compete to Google? They have the speed, they have the money, they have everything. Now, that's the way it works. So it's a funnel of elimination process, kind of like Darwin in a way. So it's like that. So, and this is why I mentioned this, because there are many people that approach entrepreneurship and they think they will hit at the first one. And actually, it's the opposite. You will need to pivot or try and try and try. One concrete example is, have you played Angry Birds?
Yep.
Do you know how many games were built before that one? Who can tell me? 51 games, because Angry Birds is the number 52. So this means that these guys raise money, they start building one, failure after failure, if you want to put it like that, up to the point of, we don't have any more money, this is our last shot, and luckily for them, lucky overnight success, after several years, they made Angry Birds. Now they work with Disney, Marvel, and all that. So you can see it how it is. Now, as I was mentioning, entrepreneurship is kind of like extreme sport, meaning that usually if you're the founders, you won't have a lot of, you will still be like a baby, meaning that you wake up every 2 hours and you won't be able to sleep very well. Why? Because it's complex in many difficulties. So it's kind of like you need a purpose or a passion to do this. Because for example, the first 4 people are your base. If you don't have 4 or like co-founders or first employees that are really solid and they believe in the purpose, it is really hard that you will scale. For example, Google, the first 20 employees, they were the base. They were the ones that built the company. And each one of them later become the head of Gmail, the head of X, Y, and Z, and that's how I scaled the company. Because they were really believing on what they were doing. So if you hire employees because you need people, that's where you start having issues. That's how usually you fail. Now, As a founder, this is the first lesson. I hear sometimes founders complaining like, I have to do everything. I have to sell, I have to collect the money, I have to build the product. That's how you start. For example, in my case, I was the first coder, I was making the invoices, I was collecting the invoices, I was chasing clients, muscle clients, so they pay. Because that's it is. Obviously, right now, 13 years later, I don't even run the company anymore. But at the beginning, I had to be everything that's needed. Also, for example, we have some bad luck sometimes, and I was the one not collecting salary for 6 months in a row. Because that's, if I want to keep the company alive, that was what I have to do. And on top of that, in my case, for the first company that I built, I didn't raise any money. Because I truly believe that you don't need to raise money to start. For me, the purpose, yes, you could raise money if it helps and if you have the right need for the money. But if not, what else do you think you need in order to company succeed? Who can tell me? If you're not raising money. Who can tell me? No?
Maybe cash flow.
What's that?
Maybe cash flow.
Yes, but how you get the cash flow? Sales.
Yeah.
You need sales. So the first thing that any startup needs to understand is sales. Sales, sales, sales. A good sale will cure any disease on the company. So every mistake, all the mistakes that I made, it was fine because I was able to sell more, which didn't put in jeopardy the company. So if you focus on sell your product, you will be fine in a way. Because that's the best way to show, hey, if somebody's buying a product, even if it's not perfect, means that you're doing something good. And that scale and you improve and you improve. And eventually, you perhaps won't need to raise money. Or you will raise money when you want to explode and scale all over the world, which is fine. What I see in many of the mistakes is like people is like, one day old, I want to raise $1 million. Why? I will invest 50% in marketing, which is, might be good, might be bad, most likely it's bad. And this is the definition of a startup. It's an institution that is trying to find their business model, meaning that until you realize what you're good at it, you still a startup. Later, you became a company. You know what I mean? Now, comfort zone. For example, I was an engineer. I never had any experience in sales. In fact, I didn't like even to sell. I didn't like to talk to humans because I was an engineer. I like computers, I like games, I like to be in my screen, not talking to anybody. Even if I have somebody next to me, I will talk through the chat. That was me. So I was forced to get out of my comfort zone. I was forced to be able to explain what was my vision, because the vision of the company is to provide good technology to other companies. How you sell that, how you explain that, how you even make your team or your employees to believe in the same thing. If they don't believe in what you do, for example, in technology, it's really hard because all the companies are chasing talent. So you might find good people, but if they truly do not believe on what they're doing, another company will show up, offer more money, and they will go. And that's how it's right now. Now, the other thing is that you have to have in mind is like, I hear a lot of people everywhere, except in the US and Israel, that because they think they're from Latin America or Europe or somewhere else, they cannot reach the US market. And that's really not the reality. When I start, I have $400 in my pocket, 3 laptops, two of my friends, and we were able to secure several clients in the US without even touching the US. The US doesn't care where you're from. As simple as that. Now, let's go to what can destroy a startup already working. The first one is teams, weak teams. For example, we made a mistake. When we were scaling, our recruitment process is really, really, really strict, meaning that probably from when I started, from 50 people, I will hire 1, 2, if I was lucky, because I really wanted people that was not only technically good. I want to have people with potential. I want to have people with growth mindset, people with resiliency, and all those tests all the tests take time, but also put the market like this into this. So it means that if you want 50 people, you're going to have to interview a lot of people in order to get that. So because we have pressure from the clients, I accept to reduce the bar from what I was doing to, instead of hiring from 52, I was pushed by the pressure of the market to get probably 5 or 6. That was the worst mistake that I could do. I'd rather lose those clients than hire that people again. because what they did is that this became a cancer. Because if you have one bad element, it will spread out. Because at the end, what you're selling is quality. Your purpose is quality on the product or service. So if you don't hire good people, quality goes to hell, and guess what? Humans copy good and bad. So the older developers start seeing that, okay, I was making my best effort and that guy's doing the less, and yeah, sure, I'll do the same. And eventually you have a team that was not able to even salvage, and the project was bad, meaning that you need to now put more hours into the project, meaning that the bottom line is going to hell. So I never make that mistake again. So I recommend that you don't do it either. With teams is the worst thing that you can do. It's better to be by yourself or with few people than have a lot of people that won't help, because it will destroy the morale and all that. The other thing is with products. I've seen a lot of times startups that they believe in their product so much that they are blind. One thing is to be persistent and pivot and all that, and a different thing is to keep believing that, because you think you're right and you never validate, your product eventually will hit the market in a correct way. And this goes to always the idea need to be validated, and even more. I work in companies with companies that they have a great idea at the beginning, but they stop listening to the user. What means that eventually, as they move forward, if you don't listen to the users, what happened? The user will leave. A clear example: MySpace. Have you heard of them? High Five. I don't know if reach out here. So what happened is that MySpace was good. High Five was good. At least in America, they got a lot of users, but they stopped listening to the user. What happened? They went to hell. Even a closer example. Have you used Google Plus? You know that exists. It was bad because it's Google. Google said, I'm Google, I know you, I know what you do, I know what you search, I know everything about you. Okay, I'll build a social network that will destroy Facebook. What happened? Somebody used it? Nobody used it. It was horrible. One of the worst products that I ever seen. The opposite, Facebook got upset and said, okay, you build a social network, I will build an email. And everybody had, for a while, your name at facebook.com that you can use in the platform. Do you know that? Thank God. So that's a weak product. But for example, Google learned from that. And if you look Google cemetery of apps or products, you will see by year all the products that they were born and died, and now they're dead. This goes from Google Glasses, Google Plus, among many other things. So you need to learn from that. At least they learn from that, and they improve for the next ones. And this is, for example, weak products we can call, not Angry Birds, but the company, that they will build in one, improve, and eventually they made it. And now mindset. What I mean with mindset. If you believe that you cannot do it, or you believe that you can do it, you're correct in both. It's as simple as that. And this goes with the mindset from, except US and Israel. People think that, oh, because I'm in Serbia, I cannot sell in the US. Or because I'm in Mexico, I cannot sell in the US. And it's like, why not? And when I ask why, nobody knows how to answer. Because it's a mindset. If you realize that it's really easy to sell in other markets, once you change that mindset, suddenly everything opens. So it's just a matter of how you see the situation. Even the mindset, good trainings, to watch the last movie of Avengers. What can I do? People, they get catering every day from Gordon Ramsay. Everything is beautiful, beer for everybody. And then 6 months later, it's like, okay, have you improved the product? No. That's how it is. The more money you have in the bank account that you didn't earn, the chemistry in your brain changes if you don't know exactly how to use it. That's why, for me at least, was like the less money that we have, the better. Because that means that we will be very wise in how to invest it or how to use it. Also, it's if you're not selling, that will be an issue, because what will happen two things. You will start pitching for raising money and money and money until somebody says no, and then everything falls apart. Like WeWork. Well, everybody knows WeWork. What happened with WeWork? They didn't shut down. They just got a slap of reality, and they are now where they're supposed to. For example, we were once raising money based on a dream. So, and they raise money, and money, and money, and money. It's kind of like a Ponzi scheme because you raise money to pay the previous one. And then you raise money to pay the previous one, the previous one, and the previous one, until either you start selling, like Amazon, because Amazon did the same thing, but they were profitable. We didn't, because they were focused on what? Raising money and give discounts to everybody so they can present the numbers saying that, hey, we're scaling, give me more money so I can continue the trend, and eventually means someday I'll produce money. That's also a quick bank account, because what happened, it got stopped, somebody read the reports, it's like, your value is incredibly bad. So what happened? It went down. Yes?
What do you think about Uber then? Because
Uber it's similar and different. Why? Because Uber had the money and they got into a fight with the Chinese company that I don't recall the name, and they depleted the money. They depleted the money in China because one way to get clients is provide a good service, and another one is like, I give you 50% discount. I give you 50% discount. 50% discount, like Uber Eats, like Global, like Rappi. But that's money from the investment. So if you don't capitalize that really fast, you're just putting money into the trash.
But people are still investing in Uber.
Yes, because they were able to go to the public. They made an IPO, but they raised $9 billion in the IPO, and they already spent $6 billion, and they are still losing. So meaning that in the next 6 months, either they go dead, or they will be firing half of the company just to see a little bit of profit, so the stock can increase value. But that's what happened with them. Unfortunately, it is what happens. Most of these unicorn startups, what they do is like they get users because they give you free stuff. For example, in Uber Eats, if you don't buy Uber Eats often, they give you 50%, 40%. You will buy it because it's 50%. But what happened when I removed that discount? Would you continue buying? Might yes, might not, but it's not sure. So different, and you need to adapt and evolve. Otherwise, I'll become the next blockbuster or con. How we made it happen, but that doesn't mean that it's happening. And obviously, it always seems impossible until it's possible. Meaning that, for example, in my case, people were saying that there's no way that you can build a company without raising money. Yeah, we did it. Now we invest in startups. Now we invest in funds, and we never raise a dime. And so far, I'm not thinking to raise any money. That's one way to do it. Took me more years, perhaps, of what I expected, but it was my first company. The next one that I will build, will be faster. But when I mention this, is like, I'm not saying Star Wars for play games, for going to the same school, for do everything together. One of them has an idea. What do you think that the other three will say? If they basically do the same thing. Great. That's great, that's amazing, everybody will do it, everybody will love it. And they go and start coding on that. They launch to the market, what happened? Failure, because nobody, even their moms, will use that. Because that's the truth, that's the reality. So what I said when I said idea validation is like, if you're building an app or something for grandmas, ask grandmas to use the application. For example, and we had an experience that we were building games for short periods of time in the company. And the owner, or the project manager, founder of the company says, I want to build a game for kids. I don't have kids, so at that moment I was not even thinking about that. So for me, kids is kids. From this to this. So it's the same for me. And for him was the same. Kids means, I don't know, up to 15, 16, I don't know. And so we started building games, for example, from 8 to 10. We did all the validation, all the process for kids from 8 to 10. And when we went to Mexico to test the product, they bring us kids that were 12 to 15. What do you think what happened?
Boring.
For the kids, like, I don't want to use this game. It's like, it was wrong. Because the idea was bad validated. Because we didn't get the user correctly. Because we didn't ask the right questions. So the better you understand your user, and this goes as much detail as possible, the idea will be better validated. That doesn't mean that your startup will be successful, but at least you will have more chances to know if it will fail faster than later. Yes, by the way. So I made that mistake. Thank God the client paid for everything. Now, investment types. this goes very careful, meaning you can raise money. There are grants, there are seed investments. There's people that can give you $50,000 for 10% of your company, blah 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 like that. But you need to be careful. I know this goes to also if there is several founders, they need to be aligned of what the hell they want to do with the company. Meaning, they want to sell it, they want to scale it, they want to own it for good, they want to leave it to their kids. What they want to do? Because if they are not aligned in that, and suddenly a buyer arrives and, hey, I want to buy your company for $2 million, you will say yes, and then your partner would say, no, I want to scale it. Goodbye, company. Because if founders are not aligned on that, they're dead. And there are different type of businesses. Lifestyle businesses is a company that I want to own, give me good money, but it will never be a unicorn or will never generate a lot of millions, but gives me enough to live comfortably. No issue, no nothing. Then you have the companies that you know that in 5 years you need to sell it. Otherwise, you will discard it. So you already mentalize that you need to sell this company in 5 years, which is good. There are many models and many ways to do startups to make money. And you know that you won't sell it for $100 million, but you will sell it for 10. And then another 5 years, you sell it another one for 10. And you continue that loop. You end up with $50, $100 million in your bank account. It's not bad. I don't think so. But the investment types goes to, if you search for angel investors, you need to search for investors that really care about your product. Because money is on the market, especially in the US. The question is like, who do you want on your table? Or who do you want in your bedroom? Because if you take money from somebody, you give them a right to bug you. That's how I see it. And you need to be very careful who you accept. How aligned are they with you? Culturally speaking, do they care the same things about you? Do they care about the product? Do they care about their money or not? Because you have the opposite. People that will just give you the money and they won't even talk to you in 3 years. Do you like that money? Depends, it's up to you. So it depends on what you're looking for. And obviously, as you scale, you will go to more VC funds. You can get Series A, Series B, but that's when you reach some metrics and statistics. But at the beginning, it's either grants or angel investors. And my recommendation in this space is to stop. Don't pursue all the contests that you can see or all the awards that you can get. It's good to have awards, but for me, it's better to focus on sales. Because you can have all the awards in the world, but that doesn't mean that you're selling. If you're not selling, somebody else will sell and will beat you. This is critical. I see so many good companies, products, teams, but the founder didn't choose a correct one, meaning that sometimes you choose a co-founder based by need and based on what you have surrounding you, more than what you really need. Because usually when you are a solo founder, it's really hard to scale because you need a sounding board. You need somebody who complements you, unless you are Tony Stark, and that works. But otherwise, for example, these two guys, he was good at what? What did you say? Sales. This guy was a genius. Actually, he's the one who built Apple, bigly speaking. This guy was just like a talker, but he was an excellent talker. But he can do something by himself? No. He was doing something by himself? No. He was a genius, but he was building jokes with his computers because nobody will buy it. So they are a perfect match. The same with Bill Gates and Ballmer and the other ones, Paul Allen and all that, because they complement. For example, in my case, we are 3 engineers, the same school. So we have to decide who's going to do sales, who's going to do operation, and who's going to do the technical part. Because otherwise, the company won't exist. In my case, I had to. The other two were really good, but they don't do sales, so I was designated in sales, and I had to get out of my comfort zone and start explaining to clients without hitting them that we are doing a good job. So, if you have a good co-founder, it will allow you to scale faster. And do not choose a co-founder just because you don't know technically speaking, because that's the most common. You have a business, somebody who has the idea, but they never code, and they search for the first person that knows technology, and they made him a partner. And then you're screwed up because he already has stuff in your company, he won't be good, you will stuck with that, You want to get him out of the company. You will need to pay him. You won't be able to raise money because the first question is like, what are you doing with somebody who is not helping you, and you get into a deadlock. That is really painful. So be aware of that. And understand your users. This is what I mentioned you with. Who are you selling with? If your product is for kids, who's buying, the kid or the parent? Who you target?
Parent.
You target the kid that will push the selling to the parent. Because at the end, the parent will never go and, yeah, play this game, son. It's the opposite. It's like, daddy, I want to do it. It's like, okay, quiet and put the card. So you need to understand who you're selling to. And this means understanding not only where you are, it's also where you want to go. Because remember, you have to think global to start local, meaning that, yeah, try developing in Serbia, but hey, how this will be applying to other markets. Because remember that here we're in the age of where you can test everything with very few money everywhere in the world. So you need to understand what are the pain points, why they will hire you. If you understand the problem, solutions will arise. It's as simple as that. But you need to really understand what's wrong. And that's why when you pitch, or I'd like to hear the companies, is like when they pitch, is they start with the why. Why I build this product? Because I understand your problem really well. And that usually makes a trick. And this is, I don't know how's the customer service in Serbia. In Latin America, it's crap. The US is okay. But this is, for me, is the key ingredient of being successful, especially. And when I say customer service, it's not that when everything is beautiful, everything will go fine. It's not the opposite. For example, when we started and had our worst projects or our worst experiences, we always face the client face to face. Like, you know what, I made a mistake, this is my plan, this is my action, this is what I will do. They might be really pissed off, but at least they will value that you were upfront, you never hide, and you solve the issue at the end. And guess what? Those clients are the ones who make the best referrals and the ones who will always recommend you. Because they have already experience with other startups or other providers that they hide, or they don't fix the issue, or they leave. So that's customer service for me. Remember that the issue is not the issue, it's how you deal with the issue. Because I had horrible experience with bigger companies, but they fix it in a way that, wow, even with that issue, I want to keep buying with Amazon, for example. I had many issues with Amazon. But every time I complain, they know how to fix it. The issue is still there, but they know how to fix it. And I keep buying on Amazon. Because the customer service is great. My clients, is the same thing. They like that when there is an issue, I'm the first one to be upfront. It's like, by the way, we have this issue and this is a plan of action. I'm sorry about that, we won't charge you for a month, whatever, but they're happy. That's what you need to value. That's what clients value. Especially bigger SMB, as small and medium businesses and enterprises. This is another one. There's a lot of companies as they start selling, and as they sell, meaning income, they start spending. In a frenzy of, we have clients, let's buy and buy and buy, and they don't control that. What happened? What did I mention when you have a lot of money? Either you start hiring a lot of people that you don't need, or you start inventing positions. I see this a lot of the time. I have the HR, the recruiting, the selection, the retention, the well-being, the culture, and suddenly you have 10 people in HR. Why? I have no idea. Or the assistant of the assistant of the assistant. Because you have budget, and obviously, yeah, everybody wants to have an assistant, everybody wants to have a nice office, or suddenly you start party. What was the upside? None. So you need to be careful with an E all the way to the CEO. In a way, for example, part of the company, and this goes with compensation. That could be as simple as stock options, as simple as freedom, depends on what's your culture. In our case, for example, we don't have bosses. I mean, we have a structure, but not. And the idea is to find not 10 mentors, find 1 or 2 or 3 top that complement your experience. In the US, the good thing is that you can find those mentors that really wants to help you. They are not asking you for, yeah, I'll help you, but I need 3% of the company. Or pay me. No, a mentor is somebody who really, you create a relationship that so they care about you. And this was the man I do it, and then I realized, okay, he was right. So I learned, I matured. from the US or from Mexico, and they realize, why are we paying so much taxes? Because we never ask a lawyer, hey, how we structure in a good way, so it's not avoiding taxes, it's meaning how we pay less taxes legally. Because these could take you from losing $30,000 a year to $150 if you don't know how to deal with it. You know what I mean? So be careful on that. And then legal protection is nothing more than be sure that if you have a contract, now these days it's really easy to find good and cheap lawyers online for the US, for example. So spend a couple of bucks on having your contracts well written and all that. That will avoid a lawsuit or some kind of mistake, or if somebody wants to take your employees or somebody wants to take your IP, can protect you. I've been there.